What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking another look at Monster Hunter Wilds here on the Steam Deck. When I did my original video a few days ago of all the devices, it was one of the ones crashing and giving me trouble. I've since reinstalled the game, and it's been doing pretty good, a few tweaks, and I haven't really had any crashes since. Now, I'm not using any different compatibility layers. However, experimental or bleeding edge seem to be a good option if you're still having troubles, and I believe there's some launch options you could use, but I haven't really gotten into anything. Unfortunately for me, just the reinstall of the game and messing with a little bit of settings seem to keep the crashes away. I'm still just the 800p 16:9 uncapped on here, and I'm using low as the preset without frame gen on, and I wound up switching to lowest when it came to frame gen, and that seemed to help me with those crashes. We're going to start off with frame gen off. I'm going to turn that off. We are going to be on low here as we get started, and we'll get into some more settings. But obviously this game is a mess at launch on all PCs. It's not just a device issue, but I think even with a bunch of fixes that'll probably be coming in patches for the game, it is going to be just difficult to run this game on the Steam Deck. I just think it's going to be a problem no matter what we get for fixes in the future. We'll see what happens with that, but just be aware that this may be one of those games that you either never really get into on your Steam Deck, where you accept the performance you're dealing with and you play it anyway. Now, without the frame gen on, you're looking at a typically 15 to 25 FPS if I'm just averaging it out. You can go above or below that, obviously, but 15 to 25 FPS on average without any frame gen on low settings here. And yeah, I can run around and play, and I was actually able to take down a couple of monsters. I put in a couple of hours because I wanted to make sure I wasn't getting those crashes I was getting in my original video, and I haven't so far. I had one crash with frame gen turned on that low setting I was talking about, and we'll get to frame gen here in a minute too. But yeah, this is what you're looking at depending on where you're at in the game. 15 to 25 FPS. Even if I go to the lowest settings without frame gen, I don't really gain much of anything anyway. I really only took the settings down later on to deal with that frame generation. And again, depending on where you're at, it's going to depend on your performance. And also, if you're still getting a lot of crashes, you can wait for fixes or try experimental or look into some other fixes for the deck out there as well. Now, if I leave low, I do still crash with frame gen on, but for some reason, if I just tick down to the lowest, which I know the game looks pretty rough as is, but just trying to keep it running, it does seem to work. I put about the 30-40 minutes with frame gen here, and it seemed to work. I did have to manually put that GPU clock to 1600, which does give us a pretty decent CPU bottleneck in this game. As you take power away from the balancing and you manually set that, you'll see the GPU usage go down here when we turn that off. It's kind of a balance between the two, you know, one evil over the other, but we can't get frame gen to work well in this game without putting the manual clock on 1500 or 1600 to make it work. But when you do that, we certainly do hit the CPU a lot more. So again, it's just kind of a balance of trying to make things work here. So I'm going to leave that turned on because it does smooth out and fix the frame gen side of things, but we still wind up stealing from the CPU and having some issues over there. But it is going to double the performance, almost double the performance that you were seeing without the frame gen on. In this area, we were, you know, 15 to 23 FPS depending, 15 to 20, and you know, we can get 30 to 38, 39 here, and up to 40 on the way out. So frame gen doing its job this way, and when you're away from the villages and the NPC areas, the CPU's not quite at that 95 to 100, still going to spike up from time to time here and there, but there's going to be a ton of these areas that were running 15, 13 FPS without frame gen that are now going to run 25 to 30 on that. And some of the monster fighting might be fine away from, you know, busy areas where you might get up into the 40s or so here with the frame gen on, and I can dodge and play and everything. I won't say the input latency is that much worse than what we're getting when we're at like 15 to 25 FPS anyways. We're just dealing with such a low base FPS here that frame gen isn't really meant for that, but it does work enough to kind of help make the game more playable, at least in my opinion. But it's just a rough experience all in all, and I just want you to be aware, if you are jumping in on the Steam Deck, you could suffer with crashes. You may need to play around a little bit, and some of the settings and frame gen and stuff. It's no wonder they're kind of forcing you or trying to get you to turn frame gen on in this game when you first load it up, because it really is a mess, not just because of the Steam Deck, but the game itself. I'm playing this on 7 different PCs. They all have their own problems. Also, remember we have Lenovo here, so 5 logins in 24 hours and you're locked out. And I've had this happen numerous times, which is why it's taken me so long to try to cover this game more, because I got locked out a couple of times and had to wait for devices to unlock, which is annoying as well. And that could also be affecting performance. I'm one of those people that does believe Lenovo in the games causes stuttering and other issues as well. But anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it there pretty quick. Some more Monster Hunter Wilds on the Steam Deck. I wanted to cover it since I'm not getting crashes right now, and I was before. And we'll cover this more in the future when we get some bigger updates and patches and hot fixes and things like that. All right, guys, as always, thanks a lot for coming and check out the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.